All right, welcome everyone to our early childhood education panel. We are here with staff from Moss Street, LCC, and Head Start, and they're going to talk to us a little bit about what they do, their organizations, and talk about some videos that we shot earlier. So I will go ahead and introduce myself and then let them introduce themselves. My name is Brianna Vincent, and I'm a project coordinator with Connected Lane County. And if you all, when you introduce yourselves, could you say your name, your title? It's on the screen, but the organization you work for, and just a little bit about kind of how you got here. So I will start with Daniela.
Hi, I'm Daniela Ko. I'm lead teacher in Infant Room at Moss Street Children's Center. I've been here for 6 years, and yeah, I finished LCC 2-year program, and somehow I'm originally from Montenegro. I came here, and this is something I wanted to do, so I went to an LCC and finished the 2-year program.
Great. Yukimo?
My name is Yumiko Nakagome.
Sorry.
It's okay. I work at the Moss Street Children's Center infant classroom. We have a 2 infant classroom, and Daniela is a younger infant, and I'm with an older infant. And I've been working with the infant toddlers for almost 22 years. This is my 11th year at the Moss Street. I graduated from university in Japan. My major was American English literature. Minor was minor in education. And took a while. I had a global journey, and I came to the United States. I took ECE at LCC, and I just loved what they do, and there was really teacher there was so inspiring me. So after graduated, I work at the daycare center community, and I got my dream job here. And here I am.
That's great. Your dream job. Rachel?
Hello, my name is Rachel Blazevich. I am a lead teacher at Lane Child and Family Center at LCC. I went through their program from 2018 to 2020. I started as a sub in 2019 for them, and then got my position here at the beginning of last fall.
And Tanya?
Hi there, my name's Tanya Pickner, and I'm the head teacher at the Howard Full Day Head Start classroom. And I've been with Head Start, this is my 4th school year. I've been working in this field for many years, and I just love what I do.
And Angel?
I'm Angel Nickel. I'm an education coordinator with Head Start of Lane County. I graduated from University of Oregon with my bachelor's in psychology, and then my master's from Pacific University with my teaching license and master's in education. So I started here at Head Start in 2013, and I've been here ever since. And so, yeah.
Great. So can you, and I'll just do, Rachel, this is going to be on you since you're the sole LCC, but could one of you from each location just tell us a little bit more about your organization specifically? And we'll start back with Daniela or Yumiko.
Okay, I will take that question. So Moss Street Children's Center serves, it's at the University of Oregon. It's one of the daycare centers that serves student families to help them out in their possibilities to finish the school. And we serve, we have like 7 classes. We serve kids from 3 months to school age. We have around 80 student staff that work, and we have like around 30, we used to have 30 volunteers, interns, sometimes LCC co-op students come to, and practicum students. we have like every classroom has one lead staff and 3 student staff with at least one volunteer. Depends how many hours they work per week. That's the basic.
Great. LCC. I'm just going to call everyone out by their site.
Let me unmute there. Lane Child and Family Center is a Reggio Emilia inspired program. We follow an emergent curriculum that develops with the children's interests. Each of our classrooms on a typical non-COVID year would have 2 lead teachers and 1 supporting staff, with ECE students integrated from the college, as well as interns and co-op parents. This year's a little different. We have quite a few floating staff, and schedules are much different, which I'm sure everyone has been seeing around. Excuse me, somebody coming in. Let's see, I touched on our curriculum. Each of our classrooms has up to 20 children. We have 1 preschool promise class on campus, and they can take up to 18.
Great. Head Start.
So for Head Start of Lane County, we cover children in utero with their parents through ages 5, so pre-K. In a typical year, we usually support around 1,000 kiddos. And we have models from our home visiting model and our EHS all the way through our part day and extended day models, which range from 3.5 hours to 6 hours. And we have our extended day model, our full day model as well, that typically is for our working families that really need that. And we have that model as well, which goes in the past was 7:30 to 5:30. So a good chunk of time. And so, we really focus on supporting our youngest kids and doing what we can with family service wise and education wise to support them to have a solid foundation.
Great. So I have some kind of video specific questions. Those students who are watching this webinar, maybe this is integrated into your class now, and you're an ECE student in high school, and so you potentially watched the videos that were sent out on each of these locations. So I'm going to talk a little bit about those specific videos and ask some questions around them, and then end with kind of general questions about the ECE industry and things like that. So for the specific questions, and I'll just keep kind of going in the same order unless someone wants to popcorn a little bit. So first question is, in each of the videos, Mastri, you get to decide what you want to talk about on this one, since we didn't see the students live in your video, so this one's kind of free for you. But we saw some free time and some structured time in the videos. So could you talk a little bit about what kind of things that you're teaching the students or the friends or whatever you want to call the young ones, what kind of things you're teaching them in those structured times and the lessons versus the free time and why that's important. So I'll go actually out of order of how I wrote this. LCC, I saw some story time in there, and I love there's fairy dust over the classroom, and that was kind of a cool thing that you were potentially structuring some lessons on. And then we saw outside free time as well.
Would you like me to begin?
Yes.
Yes. So I was not present in the video, but I did get to watch the recording. And yes, the fairy, Bling Fairy, that we have a character that the children have come up with and we've integrated into our emergent curriculum. So we have a lot of dramatic play with that. We've been writing letters to the Bling Fairy, who lives in Queensland, Australia, and she's returned those letters to us. So the structured time that you saw in the video during a non-COVID time or during the closing period, which I'm the closing teacher, so I'm here with until 5:45, and at that time we have children leaving So we have the ability to space children out farther than what you had seen in the video, which allows us to get up and do movement and integrate singing and story times as well. One of the COVID restrictions was that singing really in close proximity was not something we were encouraged to do. But as our children have all began to wear masks inside of the classroom, we've been able to integrate that. And so a lot of our structured time takes place at group, and that usually consists of several songs, a story, or a short lesson. One day we had our new caterpillars come in, which have now made their way into their chrysalises, and they will be turning into butterflies shortly. So that was something that was introduced. And then opposite that, when activities are not available right away outside, you'll often see children begin their outside time flocking, if you will, so running, which you got to see some in the video. And then after the energy has settled a bit, that's when we'll introduce some more structured activities for them to have as a choice outside. So for example, in the background of our video, you could see some of the balancing boards we have, which was a progression introducing just some 2x4s and some even longer boards and stumps, and teaching how to use those in a cooperative manner with other children. So you get both the structured and the unstructured time, of course, within COVID's limitations as we see right now. Does that answer that question?
One thing, just kind of what type of lessons are you, or skills are you teaching during those structured times?
During the structured times, we could see anything from talking about pro-social. So for example, kindness is a heavy topic in our classroom, what that means, what it means to have boundaries between each other, what it means to be inclusive of other children that are different, and talking about differences and recognizing and honoring those differences between children. You might see an example at group of how to properly hand wash, or how to set up for our snack pre-COVID. Children were much more involved in setting their place in family style meals. That's something that we've had to deviate from, but we really play off of the children's interests. So if something, for example, in their home arises or out in the community that they've noticed, we'll take that as a topic, and ask other children, okay, so what would we need to make this happen? Maybe they're gardening at home and we want to start our own little plot of plants outside. What materials might you need? What do you already know about this subject? What research do we need to do to get to the point where we can see that through?
Great. Head Start, what we saw in the video was you kind of taught a lesson on like feelings and emotions, and then they had the independent play. So same question to you. Can you talk a little bit about what type of lessons you're teaching during that structured time and free time?
Yeah, so the day that you came, we were talking about labeling emotions, which we do a lot in our classrooms. It's working on that social and emotional piece of learning how to tell how somebody's feeling and maybe why, and being able to work through understanding that everybody has feelings, and what one person could be happy doing, it might not make that other person very happy. If I remember correctly, I think that the second step curriculum that we were using the day you were there, if I remember correctly, the poster had 2 kids on a tricycle, and the one in front was really having a good time, and the one in back was like, whoa, this is not okay. Being able to show the kids that, see, this person's writing, and then how does this person look? and having them be able to tell me, well, how do you know that that person's scared? And then with our free choice and independent play, it's being able to put that lesson into practice, in real practice of seeing and helping the kids, coaching them through being able to know how their actions are affecting other people and how they're being affected by other people's actions. And just working on that social and emotional piece is a really huge part of our classroom.
Great, thank you. And Moss Street, we didn't get a chance to see your classes live in action. So can you tell us just a little bit about what that would have looked like?
Yes, so like I said, we have 2 infant classroom. Younger one is 3 months up to 12 months, like 1 year old. And so that in that classroom, we do not have like structure. I mean, not structures. We follow their individual schedule. They can sleep whenever they want. They eat whenever they want. And the Finch room, though, we have a little bit structure. We do have a schedule, but we still like follow their schedule. And I just want to share about RIE a little bit, and we've inspired by. The RIE is resource for infant educators based on Magda Garber's philosophy, and we are really inspired by that. We respect babies. We treat baby as a whole person. So just like us, like babies crying, for example, on the floor, they don't have many words yet, but then, oh, I'm sorry, you're sad. You're gonna miss your mommy, or you're hungry. I'm sorry. You ignoring their feeling, respect their feelings. And another thing is that we believe that they grow their own pace, so we don't let them practice like walking or sitting. We know they can do that. They can learn on their pace, and so that we kind of like we tend to step in too quick sometimes, but we let them explore their body, what they can do. And the curriculum, the classroom too, like we have, we kind of like set up the activities, materials on the table, and then kind of we let them explore with the materials. So that's so see like what they can do with them. Like we have, like I just had this, like a hair colors. Yes, for example, it's just like from Goodwill. We set up on a table, and we're not gonna teach how they play with. I don't even know how to play with them, but they are so creative. They can stack them. They can put the different sizes, explore the different sizes, different colors. Can be like bracelet. Sometimes can be a finger, put them in a finger. So like just let them freely explore their bodies and skills. Silly.
And I just want to add on it, because it is, when the time comes on when you visit our classrooms, 2 infant classroom set up, particularly younger, where I am, it's almost like in the beginning when we have like mostly 3-month-old, it's an almost open space with lots of like toys that they can explore their own way and try to roll over it on their own pace, not like they have to do it or we practice tummy time. That's something they need to do on their own. When they are ready, they will be able to do. If their muscles don't allow them to roll, that means they're not ready. Putting them in a stomach means that they have to pick up their head, and their neck muscles are going to be very tired. And later on, they will have, it's very hard. The movement on the side, it needs to be taught. That's how they learn to sit up anyway, because they need to have movement to go on the side, later pull their body up and learn to sit. So we do really let them do on their own pace, learning from basic things like rollover, sitting up, pulling their body up, cruising around, and even walking. They usually do by themselves on their own. Same thing, like when they're not able to sit, we don't sit them up. We help, like they're sitting in our lap and help them feed them. Later, when they're able to sit up, they're able to keep their body upright and sit in a chair. So that means their back muscles are ready for it.
So our job is as creating a safe environment.
And then later on, when they go in Yumiko's classroom, then there is like some kind of like structure, like Yumiko says, there is breakfast, there is like activity, there's free play, but they do their own thing actually.
So you're letting your students develop. You're not pushing any development. You're letting them develop as they naturally are.
And then we change with them, depends on their needs and their interests.
Awesome, thank you. In the Head Start video, there was a friend who had a device to help him communicate and learn. So can you all talk for just a minute about how you? So sorry, I don't know what's happening. Can you talk for a minute about different accommodations or supports that you have for students with learning needs, different learning needs?
Yeah, I can definitely speak to that. So the program that you saw on the tablet for our friend was called Proloquo 2 Go, which is a program that uses visuals that make the sound. So that helps be that friend's voice. And so that's one accommodation that we have available for kiddos that need it. We make social stories, visuals. We have sensory items, noise reducing headphones. We do whatever that we're able to, and we work really closely with early childhood cares as well, to be able to meet the needs of our kids. Tanya, did you want to speak more on that?
Yeah, I can add a little bit with the device that you guys saw. That's his iPad, and at first some of the other kids were like, "Well, he has an iPad. How come I can't have an iPad?" Naturally, right? And so what we were able to do is explain to them that, well, see, you have a voice and you're talking, right? Well, our friend that is using this iPad doesn't have as many words. So it's his talk box is what we call it. It's his talk box so that he can communicate and tell us what we need and what he needs, and be able to enjoy class just like you do. And from that point on, they know that it's his and they don't mess with it. Another accommodation that we do in the classroom is, we talked about having different sensory things.
Mm-hmm.
You also have those kids that don't want that sensory mess, but they want to participate in the activity. So, like if it's shaving cream, for example, if they don't want their hands to be messy, but they want to know what that is and they want to explore with it, we can give them a paintbrush or a spoon or a popsicle stick or something else that they can use to start exploring. And then they will eventually, oftentimes, end up elbow deep in whatever they didn't want on them to begin with.
Right. I would too.
We also have dual language learners, and as the head teacher in my classroom, I make it a point to do what I can to learn at least some of the most key phrases or words in that child's home language, while still working with our English language, but also respecting their culture and respecting their language.
Mm-hmm. Great. I didn't even think about other students, seeing an iPad and wanting an iPad. I didn't even think about that issue and having to kind of navigate that, as well as helping that student with the iPad. Same kind of accommodations question for LCC and Moss Street, whoever wants to go.
I can go ahead. We also work with EC Cares. We have 2 EC Cares slots in the morning and in the afternoon. So we have 4 children that come in generally in each classroom if they're filled. And each teacher will have one of those children or multiple of those children as their primary teacher in the classroom to work really closely with EC Cares and navigate with their parents the best mode of action to help them meet their developmental goals moving forward. Some of the accommodations that we have currently with our EC Cares students, transitions are often more difficult for children that may experience developmental delays. So we have one child who rides the bus at the end of the day. And that was a really difficult time for him to let go of being so engaged in the play and transition to getting out of the classroom. So we created an in-between time. We call it I'll just say the H+1 activity. So the child's name +1 activity in different boxes. They might be sensory or just small dramatic play prop boxes. And we have our EC Cares assistant, H, and one child of his choosing come into the classroom 10 minutes prior to do a little settling. We come from right outside prior to when he's about to get on the bus. So we just have an in-between piece that's an accommodation specifically for him, which, like Tanya was saying, other children will see these accommodations and ask why. But we find that the community within our classroom is so strong that an explanation is more than enough to say, okay, that makes sense. That child needs some extra help, and they'll get excited about getting to participate with the child. Another accommodation just for all children in our classrooms, because of COVID, we would prior have children bring blankets and pillows and stuffies for rest time. That's no longer something we can do. So we have some exceptions for children who really need that extra support when they're away from mom and dad. And our center runs from 7:30 to 5:30. So that's a really long time for some children. That's one accommodation. We're really flexible. So our schedule is flexible. We have a schedule, but if the children's needs, for example, in the evenings, I do a non-USDA late snack. So we follow USDA meal calendar, but for some children that have been there for almost 10 hours, it's just really helpful to get them through the rest of the day with a little something extra. But if they're really engaged playing and 4:30 comes around, we'll swap that with the group. And it'll get switched 10 minutes and we'll just follow all the requirements we're supposed to. But if children's needs outweigh what our plan was, okay, maybe we're not going to do this activity. Maybe we're going to do something else and we'll hold off. Sorry for that loud noise if you just heard that. We'll hold off and we'll come back to it.
Sounds like a lot of just kind of thinking on your feet, and things change every day. Everyone's head was nodding. Yep. Mastery, what about you? What kind of different accommodations might you have?
So usually we do go by their own interest. We do lots of there's our kids mostly do individual play. So there's we cater to their interest. We we have just one EC Care coming once every 2 weeks to visit, and because it's COVID time, she cannot visit in the classroom. She's standing outside the classroom, observes, and we do try to communicate to see what's happening, what is his needs. And we usually let them if So it's interesting. We do have inside outside, and sometimes it's getting a little bit too loud in the classroom as a young kids. Like we have group now, they're like uh, 15 months to 2 years old in a group. So we do sometimes do split them out, one outside and inside. So we let them know there's options to do, so they can like follow, like, they need some running around and get the energy out before the breakfast time. Usually that's when they're most energetic, or after the lunch sometimes.
And then right now,
add more?
especially, right now, no, we have enough teachers, so like we can really, like Daniela said, we can spread out the classroom inside, outside, and in a classroom even we have art activities going on at the table or something else. If they don't want to, they don't choose not to, that's fine. They can do whatever they want. I mean, not whatever, but they can choose. They can choose.
There are lots of choices.
Your place sounds fine, just letting everyone do whatever they want. I'm gonna skip ahead a couple questions because I want to make sure we get some of these general questions answered for the students as well. So you all in the beginning talked about what type of education you had. So does everyone need a 4-year or a master's to work at your different locations? No? Saying no from Elsie, no from everyone. Okay. So is it kind of just required to have a 2 years or certain certificates? And can you talk a little bit about maybe what those specific certificates are, or maybe what the training, if there's specialized training that you would need at your different locations? We'll start back at Head Start.
I can speak to that. So it really depends on the position. So if you're teaching in the classroom, we have 3 different positions. We have an A2, and that position requires a high school diploma and then experience in early childhood education, like in a setting, 2 years preferred. And then we have our teachers that for that one is 1 year experience and then being enrolled in an associate or bachelor's program. And then we have our head teachers that we prefer an associate's or bachelor's degree with focus in early childhood education.
Okay, so just kind of depends on what position you're in, depends on the level of education. Does everyone there need CPR, first aid training?
Yes, we do CPR and first aid training. That is something that we provide in-house as well. And then we also require people being registered through background registry, so ORO. Mm-hmm. And so that is something we require as well.
And a food handler certification.
And a food handler's, yep. Thank you, Tanya.
Are there any other specialized like CPR, food handlers, anything else like that would a staff would need to have?
I think we have the ORO background, food handlers card, CPR card. I can't think of anything beyond that. On our website, we under the jobs tab, we actually have the descriptions of all the jobs that we have available, even if we're not currently hiring, and it does have all those all the information on there as well.
Okay. LCC?
I was writing down as I think about. So if you are enrolled as an ECE or education major, you can apply to become a sub with 35 credits and 1 year experience in the classroom. That's what I did. And as I finished my degree, to work as a teacher, you'll need a 2-year degree or higher. And then you'll need pediatric and general, CPR, and first aid, background registries, ORO, and food handler's card. We do have one aide at the moment who does not have the education, but she does have experience in the classroom, which she is not counted as a teacher. So she can be in ratio, but she can't be alone with children at any time.
Gotcha.
And that's not generally something that, no, it's not generally a position that's open to be hired, but because of COVID and lack of subs, she's kind of our last resort sub.
Mhm. COVID has changed a lot, hasn't it?
Could
And
I
Moss
step
Street.
in
Oh.
and add one more thing that I forgot? So one of the things that we do as well is those who are hired on in a teaching position that are currently in school, they can apply to have their tuition reimbursed. And so we actually have funds that cover that as well. So like if we have teachers that are really interested in getting those degrees, the qualifications to become a head teacher, or even those that would just like to become a teacher and that maybe be an aide as well. So we do have funding for that.
I can also speak to that because as a head teacher, I've gotten a partial reimbursement just this year to help go towards my bachelor's.
That's awesome. That's awesome you guys do that. Moss Street, what about you all in education, certificates, training?
So I'm gonna read this. To become a head teacher, bachelor degree from college or university with a major in, I'm talking about the infant classroom, ECE or child development, or 2-year degree from major in ECE, or 1-year state nationally recognized credential, or completing 20 credit on a semester system, or 30 credit from a quarter system college, and at least 1 year teaching experience, or the other one, or at least 2 years of qualifying teaching experience with at least 1 year teacher, 1 year as a teacher in a certified center.
Gotcha.
And then the same thing, like food handler.
Food, yeah, it's necessary to have food handler and reporting abuse, but later, those are the basic that you have to have, and then later on the center really provides you with the trainings, and it's 25 hours of oral training per year that we have to do. And I just want to add on that, if you're lead teacher or teacher and actually hired as a teacher, staff, you get some discounts when you go in university for classes if you want to continue your education. And just want to add on, we have student staff that, we train in a building, they start as aide ones, depends what they have from their sociology major or educational major, or we have lots of from human services, family and human services students. So it depends how many credits they have, they can be and how many years they were in school, so they can start at not just from the bottom, aide one, they can be aide two.
They can be work as a student assistant. Student assistant.
Okay. Yeah.
Just also wanted to add, for those, I know we're speaking to mostly high school students, if you are worried about first needing to have experience prior to entering one of these programs, at least at our center, the experience that you gain in classroom during your practicum counts towards your teaching experience. So if you were to enter the program right out of high school, and you've done a whole year of student teaching, or 270 hours or so, whatever, to get to the 35 credits, that you've already gained your qualifying experience to be able to become a sub or get a job while you're still finishing your degree.
Okay.
Like Rachel said, like I went to LCC and it's a really great program. I never had experience with working with the children. I never had a photo babies before. So like, during I was attending LCC, I learned a lot. So if you don't have like, any experience, you can still do that.
I heard, so Angel and Tanya, did you go to LCC as well? I can't remember from the beginning.
I actually moved here from the Denver, Colorado metro area. And so my associate's degree was earned with Red Rocks Community College. And then I started some of my schooling with Metro State University. And I'm finishing my bachelor's degree within the next like 8 months with what used to be Ashford University, but is now Arizona Global Campus, I think is what it's called.
My journey was a little different. So for my journey, I did actually go to LCC, but I was in their elementary education program.
Mm.
So I had started my journey thinking I was going to be a third grade teacher. And then I got to explore early childhood education, and I'm still here and I'm loving it. So my journey was a little different in that path.
Great.
I also wanted to add that with us at Head Start, our subs, that we're always looking to hire subs, and the requirement for a sub is to have a high school diploma or GED plus that 1 year experience of being around children. And then they would count in ratio, but they couldn't be alone with the children.
Right. Okay. Great. I love when everyone comes through LCC. I really like to see, the students go to high school here and then they stay local and then support all these local organizations. So what do you think are some of the most important skills that students should have coming into this field? Thinking of kind of professional skills or those soft skills. What are the most important? Whoever thinks of their answer first can go first. That's a tough one.
A couple things I can think of is being flexible, because you might have a plan and the kids might tell you that plan's not working. And you might have to come up with
head nodding now.
That's like the biggest thing being in the early education field is knowing your students, knowing your audience. If you've got this great activity plan and you're all excited to do it, and you'll know if they're not into it, you're going to want to switch gears. And you need to be able to think on your toes. If you don't have that backup already written down, you need to think on your toes of, oh, well, we were going to do shaving cream, but I can see that you guys really aren't wanting to do that today. Let's try this. Or, if you're listening to what they're saying, we might be thinking of doing shaving cream and they're asking to do salt painting. And it's okay to change plans.
Great.
And
other skills?
It's also okay to tell them that you don't know the answer to a question.
Mm.
And let's see if we can find it together.
Mm.
Because we're still learning just like they are.
Right. Some honesty I think people forget you can be kind of, not all the time, but usually honest with young kids, and it usually goes over well.
I would say some skills that a growth mindset. I would say a growth mindset is an absolute wonderful thing to have. So like Moss Street mentioned, the minimum of 24 hours, because we are licensed facilities, we have the same, and we do a lot of in-house trainings as well because we like to learn. I mean, so that is, I would say, is a very valuable thing, as well as wanting to play and laugh. I mean, kids are going to learn by example. And so having fun with what you do and feeling just feeding off the energy of those kids and just laughing and playing and enjoying your time, they're going to know if you're faking it. And so it's the genuine of that. And then just that growth mindset goes a long way.
Great. Other skills? Yeah.
Go, Rachel.
When I read the briefing of the questions, my mind was like, yep, flexibility, that's it, which everybody seems to agree with. I think that's the most important thing too. I had a professor who told us to make friends with failure and make friends with falling on your face. And being okay with that and saying, okay, that didn't go how I had planned it, and we're going to get up and we're going to try it again, and we're going to adapt. Prioritizing connection with your co-teachers, as well as especially with the children and their parents, family connection, and the time that you spend uninterrupted with individual children, which isn't always possible. I mean, there's a large portion of your day where you're in fast pace, you're around the classroom, your ears are being pulled in many different directions, and you've got the eyes in the back of your head. But taking the time to slow down and be very present with children is incredibly important. And also taking care of yourself and honoring your own feelings and emotions. But at the same time, when you enter the classroom, you've entered a new space, your energy's calm, you're walking slow to promote calm energy, and you're leaving the outside of the door.
Those are great. I think
being able to collaborate with your team members is really important. In our Reju curriculum, we have designated planning time with our co-teachers. This year's a little wonky because of COVID and staffing, but typically all of the teachers would be able to collaborate each week for an extended period, an hour and 45 minutes, and really just talk about how things are going, how to help specific children, and what direction we want to go with our long-term projects and investigations.
I'm glad you said taking care of yourself too. I think that's really important. Moss Street, what kind of skills do you think students should have?
I think it's pretty much with everybody, same, but I just want to add one more thing, is a listening skills. Mm-hmm. Even though the babies, they don't have words, but, we try to communicate and listen and,
Close.
Yeah, we talk for them, like, okay, you want this or you want that, understanding, listening. And yeah, that's an important skills to have in our classroom.
I just want to add, as Yumiko says, and everybody says everything that was on our list that we made, it's very important to be calm, to be really have some positive attitude and leave your problems outside of the door and be with kids. And that's mine. And they pick up from our energy anyway. As a baby, the people say don't know, they know everything, they feel everything. They feel what we feel. Mm-hmm. When we are calm, we are they can calm down too. Kids, no matter what age. If we are not calm, we are getting a little bit hyper or something, they can feel that. And teamwork, very important teamwork, as Rachel said, we depend on each other a lot.
I think one more thing that that I had forgotten to mention earlier as well is exploring cultural competency and exploring your own biases and beginning that journey for yourself as you go into education, because no matter what age that you're going to go into, it's definitely something to explore for yourself, so that way you can bring the best of you to your classroom.
I just want to add that, because we are talking about younger people, that really, if you're interested, LCC, it's a really great place where you can do take classes and then have a lab that's beautiful lab. And you know, I was lucky to have opportunity when I was able to go from infant room to the kindergarten. It was amazing. Like, you know, the best opportunity to work with every age, and you find yourself what age you want to be with.
Great. We've got a couple more minutes left. I want to try and wrap up on what is the biggest piece of advice you would give a high school student right now going into early childhood education. I know it kind of may fall in line with what skills to have, but just what's the biggest piece of advice you would give them? Making everyone think about it.
I would say that my biggest piece of advice for someone would be, if you have an opportunity to be in a classroom, seize that opportunity. Whether it's volunteering, whether it's you're in a program and you're doing a practicum, explore and take those opportunities to find the right fit for you.
Anyone else?
I can piggyback off of that, and that's one of the reasons why I enjoy LCC so much, is because we have a mixed age grouping. So we have 36 months to typically 5 years. Right now it's 6 years because of COVID, but that should switch back within a year or so when our licensing alters. You really have an opportunity to work with your team members and find out which of those smaller groups of children that you really, really thrive with, and you balance each other out. For example, one of my co-teachers, she's went through elementary education as well. And so she's like really thriving in this. We've got kindergarten age children right now because of COVID. And I, on the other hand, really thrive with the twos and the threes. That's just really where I get into my groove. And then one of our other co-teachers, she's just kind of in the 3 and the 4. And so we all balance each other out, and they're all in the same classroom, and the younger children learn from the older, and the older children teach the younger. So any opportunity you have to work with any age of children, I think is really important. And I had always thought I was going to go in and be either a high school or a elementary school teacher. It was dead set, and I couldn't imagine it now. And I made the decision to call Jean, who is our scheduler here at LCC, one day and said, I want to come in and I want to take a look at the classroom. And I was sold. And one of the questions on this sheet, I know that wasn't really answering the question fully, but one of the questions on the briefing was to ask if we have high school students come into the classroom, and we don't, because we have college level students who do our practicum. However, you can come and visit, and we have observation rooms right now, which are COVID friendly. You just have to sign out or call Catherine, our director, and book yourself a time to come and take a look. And then otherwise, we used to have high school students come in, and we'd shuffle through 15 or so of them at a time, and they'd get to view the classroom. So any opportunity you have to be with children and get to see as many centers as you can. That's one of the things that you do in some of the early childhood education classes, is you get to go and visit other sites and you do observations of their centers, but really getting to know what different philosophies are out there and what works best for you.
That was going to be my final question, so thank you for doing that. No, you're good. If everyone can still integrate that question into their answer. So you're okay with high school students coming in and observing and learning, but not quite volunteering?
We don't have opportunities for high school students to volunteer, though, for example, if you were interested in joining the program, you'd come, and I'm speaking in a non-COVID time because that's what I have experience doing this in. You would come and you would have the meeting with the person who I believe actually Jean is no longer in that position, but the person who gets you all signed up and gives a tour of the classrooms. So you get to go inside of the classroom. If it's, we have summer program as well. So typically that kind of thing would happen in the summer. So the opportunities for observation are definitely there. You'll just be an outsider.
Gotcha.
From an outsider's perspective, rather.
Gotcha.
In years past at Head Start, I have had high school students in my classroom. And it was awesome to have them come in and read to the kids or spend time during our outside time and get that opportunity to be in the classroom with them and observe and interact with them. Right now with COVID, we're not necessarily doing that. I'm hoping at some point we will be able to again. I'm just not sure when that would be. But to follow the previous question about what advice would I give somebody would be to definitely do your research and look at your own philosophy and your own thinking and because not every center is going to be a good fit for every person. Working with kids in different centers is different. And I've done in-home childcare. I've done faith-based programs. I've done nannying. I've done a bunch of different things, and Head Start is amazing, but very different from all of those. I've read about the Reggio Emilia curriculum approach. I've never actually gotten to see it in action. So the fact that knowing there's one here at LCC, do what you can to visit and look at all of the different models.
Great. And then let's wrap us up. Moss Street, biggest piece of advice, and then do you take high school shadowers, volunteers, interns?
So the advice is, I cannot really say anything that not everybody already said, like do research. There are so many different kinds of philosophies. LCC teach all the philosophies so you can be exposed to it. Do visit the centers. We have few centers that different, they're applying, like, you know, and I know there are classes that when I was there, I went to visit Montessori, Head Start. I visit, in that time was EWEB Development Center, they have their own. And do as a high school student, like high school students, you take psychology classes, do volunteer, do, I don't know, work in the labs as a practicum. And like, you know, you have to do research anyway and try to do. And we did, before COVID, we did have few high school students, and Yumiko's daughter was one of them in my classroom. So they just, like, you know, and there was not many interest from high schoolers that we have. We have lots of, like, we have university students as they work, like student stuff. We did interns, and then LCC, as their last year of their program, second year, they have to do co-op outside of their lab. So I had a few of them, and one of those students is working right now with us. So yeah, and we would love to have them again, hopefully in a year, when to have everybody back. Yeah, we will be very excited. Yeah. Yumiko, you have anything to add to it?
I don't think so.
All right. Any advice? No other, I know it's kind of everyone has the same advice or same kind of skills, but if there's any last minute advice you wanted to give to the students?
Like if you you look into like high school classes, if you could take like child development classes, like psychology classes, that may be helpful, I think.
Great. and hopefully we'll still be able to have those classes and have some more hands-on and in-person experiences coming up after this year, hopefully. So thank you all for being here. I know Rachel had to hop off early, but thank you all for being here and having us into your classrooms or sharing your video with us so we could experience what your sites are like and give the students a little bit of behind the scenes look or a day in the life of. I know every day is different and everyone's got to be flexible, but at least one day in your life. So it was great to have you all. So thank you all for being here. We really appreciate it and we hope to see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.